Well, let's talk more about the process of fracking itself. Joseph Dutton is an energy expert and research associate on global gas security at the University of Leicester, and he joins us live from central London. Good morning to you. Let's start, first of all, if we can, about dispelling some of those myths. We've heard a great deal about the risks of water contamination from fracking, the possibility of seismic instability, that it could cause earthquakes. Are these real threats, and how much do we really know about what it could do on our relatively small island compared to the examples that we've seen in the US?
I mean, it's interesting initially to state that the well in Bolcombe in Sussex is not a shale gas well. A lot of the protesters are talking about the dangers of shale gas and fracking, but the well itself is for oil, and the current licence that Quadrilla have applied for does not contain permission for fracking. So as yet, these protests are perhaps slightly premature. Looking at the broader aspects of shale gas development, although and also fracking in general, it's a well-established process. There's well over 2 million wells have been fracked globally over the last 30 or 40 years, both in conventional oil and gas as well as shale gas. It's a well-established practice elsewhere in the world, and also there are a number of wells that have been fracked here in the United Kingdom, including some close to some very sensitive environmental areas, and there have been no reports of damage. Now, this is to not say that fracking is without its issues. Like all forms of industrial process or oil and gas production, there is a possibility of contamination if things are not done properly. And you mentioned there about the water contamination issues from fracking. There have been a number of studies that have said that close to shale gas wells in the United States and Canada, there have been reports of contamination and increased amounts of chemicals in the water nearby. But equally, there have been a lot of reports that find there are no contaminants in wells near shale gas, and this is very much something that's on a site-by-site basis, and it's not able to put down a broad stroke across the whole industry and say that fracking leads to contamination.
It's certainly something that the government finds very attractive and claims that we would be able to have a better control of our energy supply. But protesters also coming back on that point, saying that they actually don't believe that we would have any better control over our energy. We'd still be in the hands of the big energy companies, and we wouldn't necessarily see our heating bills, for example, coming down. Where do we think the truth lies on that?
The government's been very strong in putting this message across about the reduction in bills for consumers. In the United States, shale gas production led to a drop in the wholesale and subsequently domestic price of gas. There are a unique set of circumstances in the US. There's a huge amount of almost overproduction of gas at a time of reduced demand, and America had at the time very small means for exporting the excess gas. So this led to the drop in the price of the domestic gas in the US. The UK has a very different situation. We are highly interconnected with the northwest European gas market, with pipelines to a number of countries, and at the moment it's common practice for LNG exports and also production from our own North Sea for that gas to be exported to Europe if it can be sold for a higher price. So it's unlikely, if at all possible, that bills will be reduced here, and there have been a number of academic studies into this from numerous universities and think tanks, and they're all coming up with the same suggestion, that is, there is no evidence to say that bills will be reduced.
OK, a lot of people will also say that we should be talking more about sustainability, because even if fracking doesn't have particularly damaging environmental consequences in terms of water contamination, as we were discussing, what about the fact that it is still searching and producing a